Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about FAFSA frustration because there is a lot of it going around. So I'm going to help facilitate the conversation. My name is Kara. Between Carlos and Christina, who are both with ScholarShot, some important information that you need to know whether you are a parent or a student. FAFSA is impacting a lot of people. It impacts anyone who's going to be going to school post high school. So let's talk to Carlos and Christina. Go ahead. First off, introduce yourself, Carlos, and let people know what you do at ScholarShot.
Of course. Well, my name is Carlos Valadez. I am the director for Scholar Success for ScholarShot. I manage our advising program where we have over 90% of our students on track to graduate with either associate's and or bachelor's degree. And so I have the pleasure of really working hands-on with my staff and with these students to make sure that they are navigating the post-secondary world in the best possible way.
Ooh, love it. Okay, and Christina.
Hi, so I'm Christina Etchery, and I'm Director of Institutional Improvement. And so under my purview are the GAP app, mobile app for high school students transitioning into college, helping you make the best decision possible, both financially and academically. I also oversee the Texas Public University Report Card, which rates public universities here in Texas on how they are best supporting first-generation college students. And I also kind of keep our team up to date on all of the policy and news updates that are happening in our state and across the nation.
Okay, so let's get into it. FAFSA frustration, that being the key word, frustration. What is going on right now? What is the latest with FAFSA? Who wants to jump in?
Right. So FAFSA, it's no alien situation that currently this year it's been so insane to have to deal with the new edits, with the delayed stuff, with renewed student aid indexes and stuff like that. So there's a lot that our students, as well as any students within the U.S., have to deal with and approach like a new different way to just complete their financial aid, and as well as hopefully hear back from their schools. Currently in the state of Texas, we had originally an earlier priority date to be eligible for financial aid, and we have actually moved that back to April 15th to make accommodations for just the disruption that the new FAFSA has created. And so obviously we're past April 15th, here we are now, and still students are struggling to get that really fully finished, to get their official student aid index. And so we do project a lot of schools really delayed on their financial aid award letters to any single student out there.
Christina, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I think one of the bigger concerns, that at least that I have seen, I've seen it personally with my own child and as well as other friends, is that the student aid index number keeps changing as they continue to refine the formula that they used to produce the student aid index number. They've also been very slow in getting the reports to the colleges, cities. So many of the universities and colleges in the state of Texas, as well as across the nation, have not yet received the federal reports. So the thing that you all as parents or students have submitted to apply. And then I learned something new today. In past years, if you wanted to apply for or get the Parent Plus loan as part of the FAFSA, it was simply a part of the actual process. I learned today that it is not a part of the process. You have to actually apply separately for that particular loan in a separate tab. So that was kind of new to me. I'll be going through that process with my daughter, so that kind of changes things a little bit. So I think some of these technical issues, they're having a larger impact across the nation on all levels of incomes and in all students.
Well, and as someone who you are very well versed in this stuff as much as anyone can be, that's kind of startling to find out that you weren't even aware of this sort of thing. So then
Right.
you know that people who are just like, what? Like the layperson is really in the dark.
Yes, it was a little surprising when I called my daughter's university and they said, "Oh, well, you didn't apply for it." And I said, "Well, we submitted the FAFSA. Surely I applied for it. And she said, no, it's part of it's a separate application now under the tab of the student. So, it just not knowing that piece of it was really frustrating. And so we're now going to have to do that just to receive a little bit of extra aid, and hopefully her SAI will adjust accordingly. We don't know. So a lot of unknowns.
Okay, and that's what a lot of people are feeling right now, a lot of unknowns. What are some things that you think that people need to be doing right now, students and parents, some advice that you would give them at this point? Carlos, you want to start?
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that I think would be great is, first thing is really complete the FAFSA application as accurately and as quickly as you can. If you have not done so, that is very important to you and being eligible for funding, as well as obviously becoming admitted to your desired school. Because some students think that, well, I'm going to wait to figure out what school is going to give me money to apply. That's not really how that works. And so it's in tandem that you have to apply, get into school, and then fill out your FAFSA. Now, if you have successfully completed your FAFSA, you have your official student aid index. The school has hopefully received your student aid index, and you're still waiting in this financial aid limbo. So what you're going to do? Well, I would definitely recommend that you start contacting the Office of Financial Aid in the most respectful manner, because honestly, recognize that they're probably also dealing with a lot with all this change, and try and see if there's to get a ideal date as to when they might evaluate financial aid and financial aid student aid indexes, so you're aware of what can go into your institution. One of the things about finance is that we have noticed there's a trend where financial aid does tend to delay a little bit more every single year. And now with these new FAFSA, we kind of projected greatly affecting that once again. And so this is where, for students who need to know what specifically they need to have to go to school, obviously you not a lot of students have 20-something thousand plus money to be able to go to school easily. And so to really go, if you have not received any form of financial aid, probably from now to, I would recommend maybe July 1st, maybe start making that recommendation as to what other schools that you can jump into. Have an ideal date to have the full as much information as you can to start redirecting yourself to another step. Because if you're not focusing on that day, if you're just waiting to hear back, the last thing I want for any single student is to be going to school and still not having to receive their financial aid award letter until a month after school. Granted, we don't see that happening, but it may happen. We don't know.
Yeah, I would agree with Carlos. Kara, you're muted.
Classic. I was just gonna say what you said. Christina, go ahead. I know you want to add something.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I totally agree with Carlos. Definitely be thinking about a plan B, whether that is going ahead and starting at a community college in your area and the funding that you need to a choice. I think it's a good plan to have. It is definitely not the ideal plan, but there is no shame whatsoever in starting at a community college. It's actually a whole lot cheaper because all the core classes that you would take at your four-year university, you can take for less cost at the community college. And then it just sort of lets itself, it gives it time, I guess you would say, to sort out these issues that FAFSA is currently having. And also, I mean, you can work a little bit longer, maybe save a little bit more money. So there are good options out there to be thinking about if you don't have the financial aid package that you think you need to go to your four-year school.
Exactly. And definitely you want to give yourself the option to figure out hey, what is the best step once again. What I would also additionally say is like be on the lookout for emails from financial aid. Sometimes students don't review their emails, or sometimes they don't even access their school portal until way later. And sometimes it's financial aid asking either for more information about something specific, and they can't actually process your financial aid. And so this is really falls on the responsibility of the student and parent to make sure, like, have they done all the check boxes that they need to do to make sure that they can get financial aid. Because there have definitely been situations where students have not even submitted a simple little form and they have not been evaluated at all for financial aid. And so that's something that you really want to be very conscious about. Words are hard today. And just being able to go into that process. Now, one thing I would definitely say for the state of Texas, we also do have our TASA students. And so realize with our TASA students, the priority is the same thing. And so everyone is rushing to fill these in. And so for TASA students as well, you might get awarded way later. And so I know that this can definitely cause a lot of frustration and fear and anxiety and whatnot. And the truth is, this is the realm that we're in right now, and we just gotta make the best situation out of this craziness.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely be proactive about staying in touch with financial aid, checking your emails, and making sure that you've submitted everything that you possibly can. This really isn't a situation where you can just sit back and wait for things to happen. You do need to be proactive about what's happening.
It kind of reminds me of that saying of like, you got to be buttoned up. You want everything on your end to be ready to go, so that when it happens, you're in line and you're like, okay, I can take care of this.
Exactly.
Okay, before we wrap up with our FAFSA frustration conversation, I have to ask, I mean, are there any ideas of when will these kinks be worked out in future? Do you guys have any idea, or are you just keeping your fingers crossed and hoping so?
We're just trying to put good vibes out there in this realm. But when it comes to FAFSA, it can always be something different given what something's circumstance. So with new applications, with new anything, you're always trying to work out the kinks as you go, essentially. And so that's where it's like, if something doesn't pop up right now, it might not change. But if something does pop up, financial aid or FAFSA will definitely do some edits or change things up as they go. And so that's a lot that's out of the students' hands, outside of like what is going on. So that's probably my best answer to that question.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the government was so far behind in really developing this and testing it before they started to unveil it and start accepting applications. So they're sort of in this backpedal mode right now, trying to fix things that they realize were not working. I do know that at least on some of the newsletters that I have read, there is a priority in place for Department of Education to really look at some of the technical difficulties that they've had, and to go back and over the course of the next 6 months or so before it opens again, to really try to fix those and, as you said, Kara, tighten it up. So I think it will get better. I just don't think they were prepared the way they should have been, considering this has been in the works now for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Which means that you, the student and parents, you got to be prepared if they weren't.
Exactly. And the good thing is that universities are trying to adjust for the problem. And so certain schools are first focusing on first year students to award, and then they're going to start awarding the remainder of the students that go to their school. And so they're trying to make accommodations. They're trying to work on all of this and stuff like that. And so that's where it's like, even currently right now, if you have students in school and they're like sophomore, junior, seniors in college, they might not even receive a financial aid award letter until later. And so it's to have a good idea as to what they may have going into that year. To kind of use historical data, what financial aid they received the prior year, but obviously just be very aware that it may not be the same thing moving forward, because financial aid always changes every year and all that stuff. But one thing I would definitely recommend that students don't do is that they default to student or private education loans just to fund their education while they're waiting to hear back from financial aid. It's never a good thing to really just build so much debt in this situation, because for a lot of students who are first gen students, getting that much debt, it hurts. And sometimes there's credit situations, but we're not going to go into that. But I would never recommend a student just to pull out a bunch of loans just in anticipation for financial aid to come later.
Okay. Great advice from both of you. We appreciate it, being honest
Yeah.
and transparent about the
Definitely avoid loans.
Okay. I mean, I know that's scholarship's mantra. If you can. All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much. Good luck with your students in the FAFSA. Appreciate it.
Thank you.